And all, well, I thought I'd give you a quick update on where I'm at, alongside going through some of my rigs that I've been tying up while I've been convalescing. Anyway, for those who don't know, back in April I was diagnosed with cancer on my left kidney. Um, this resulted in just over 3 weeks ago, a major operation to remove my left kidney. I'm recovering well. Still in a lot of pain, still taking painkillers, sore, itchy, frustrated, a lot of thumb twiddling, a lot of tying up rigs, but I'm getting there. With rigs, trial and error uh, plays a big part. And over a 30-year period, I've done a lot of trial and error, and I still do so now. But I've got four go-to rigs. Yeah, these rigs work brilliantly at all, but these rigs have become my go-to rigs everywhere I go, whether it's one of the London Anglers Association waters, Glebs number one viewers, Hemmingford Grey. In the past, when I was fishing Naze in Meads, Hatfield Forest, North Net, every venue I've fished, these rigs work really well. So the first one I'm going to show you is what I call my bites rig. This rig gets me bites no matter what, although it tends to produce smaller fish. So hopefully you can see this rig. That's the size 10 Drennan barbel hook, a single creel pellet, and a bit of pink pop-up corn. That gets me bites year round. In the winter when it's really hard, even when the temperatures have got cat ice in the margins, that rig gets me fish. Sometimes when it's really cold, I'll add either dendrobina on the hook or between the bait and the hook, and that will produce your fish even when they really don't want to be feeding. The thing is with this rig is if I fish it in the summer months, I'll get a lot of bream in that 3 to sort of 7-8 pound range. Get the occasional bigger fish, bigger bream, but not very often. 1 or 2 tench on it, but what I will tell you is 80+% of all the carp I've had from Alton and a lot of other venues have come on this rig. And I think there's a number of reasons for this. For 30 plus years, the fish in Alton and a lot of venues, tench venues and such like, the carp see the loose fed pellet being chucked at them by the pleasure anglers as free offerings. And so having a rig like this, they come along, I just see it as a free offering, and they tend to take it, and the absolutely no picking it up, dropping it, picking it up and dropping it like you get with a boilie sometimes. It just tears off and nails them every time. And I know a lot of guys be hesitant about using such a small hook. I've landed some big carp. The other thing about, in particular, Alton and other stocked waters, with Alton you've got the VS fish. They've been reared on pellet. They just see it as free food, and you're kind of pulling the cotton wool over their eyes. After the end of the day, they're animals. They're thick animals. They know two things, as I say in my book: safe and danger. And they see this, and they see it as a safe, free offering. Pick it up, and off they go. So the next rig where I add to it, and it produces bigger fish, is I'll put a bit of real corn. I like, in particular, either Bait Tech, Brazine corn, or Sonu Baits, Banoffee corn works really well. The last couple of trips out, I've been using the Banoffee as real corn. I'll get considerably less bites, even though there's a tiny little difference. Again, size 10 Drennan barbel hook, tiny little difference between the two, but that mixture of the krill pellet, the pop-up pink, which they like the pink, and the real corn, sweet flavoured corn, just seems to be enough to give them an edge. So let's go move on to me boilie rigs now. Rigs, very similar, hopefully you can see this. Slightly bigger hook, size 8 Drennan barbel hook, 10mm krill boilie, bit of pink pop-up. That catches me fish. Sometimes can produce, particularly in the warmer months, better fish. It's been responsible for a smaller percentage, maybe 10-15% of the carp I've had from Alton. Again, in the winter months I'll use this, but I'll add Dendrobina above the boilie, or I'll split the Dendrobina in half. I call it an octopus rig, and anybody who's read my book will know what the octopus rig is. Basically, Dendrobina split in half, so you've got 4 bits of Dendrobina, looks like an octopus. That works really well at Hemmingford Grey and also at Viewers. That's caught me a lot of fish. And the variation on that is, again, very similar, but a size 8 again, Drennan barbel hook. Adding the real corn again, and again either the bait tech or the Sonyu baits. And what I'm going to do now is try and show you how I tie these rigs, hopefully. I hope you can see this. So this is 8-pound black silk braid. I also use the Calder 15-pound black braid. It comes coated, but I strip it back, and then I tie one of these Drennan quick stops to it. I think Coram do them as well, as do Calder. It saves me having to put a bait stop on every single time. So that's the first thing that goes on. The next step is I put the bait on. So depending on what bait I'm using, I like to measure my rigs so that the hook is sitting tight to my bait, and I'm guessing this is the match angler. I like everything really neat and tidy. So the bait goes on, you can see the quick stop there, bit of pink corn, krill 8mm drill pellet, and then I put a little bit of silicone sleeve on like this. And then the next step is I thread all the hook through the silicone, and you can see that still moves. And then what I'll do is I pull that down nice and tight, and then I'll tie that in the conventional way. This is quite important. When I'm tying them, I push the braid through the bottom of the hook. If you do it the other way round, so nice and tight, like you can see there, this bit of silicone, 3 things it does. Basically, I can move it up and down the hook so it gets the bait really tight to the hook if I want it, or I can move it away so the bait's a bit freer. Also, when the fish put their mouth, the top lip touches the silicone rather than the metal. And if you've ever tasted metal, you spit it out straight away, and I think the fish do as well. And the other thing as well, if you've had a couple of beeps and it's gone halfway up and you come back and they've blown the bait out and the silicone has moved down towards the knot, depending on how much it moves, gives you an idea of what you've actually missed. So then usually, as we do with these hooks, I go over 4 times, and again, this is the important bit, is pushing it through the bottom of the eye like this. Hopefully you're able to see this. I always wet my knots before I tighten right down like this. And then when you tie it, if you leave the line coming out the top of the hook, it pulls the hook so that when you strike, it levers up. Whereas if you tie the line so the knot so the line's going through the bottom of the eye, it pulls the hook down. So it's more likely, trust me, I've tried it both ways, and you miss 3 out of 10 bites if you go the other way. This way, you're hitting every single bite. The next step from there is I put a bit of silicone on, and these are like the Drennan float stops. I slide them on, size 8 swivel, bit of silicone to cover up the metal wear, and then I connect this to my feeder rig. So this is my feeder rig, and I've got a quick stop just here. I'm just going to pop that rig on there, and I'll show you what this bit of silicone halfway up the hook length does. So I'll pop that on. I've got one of those quick release, you can see that, just pop that on like that, that's it, and then I push a bit of silicone over the top. Now that's how that sits. And I don't know if you can see, I've really shortened the swivel down on the feeder, so it's really close. The idea is what I don't want is tangles. This movement is to allow the fish to bend down, pick up the bait, not feel anything. As they start to turn sideways, and it's a heavy feeder, as you can see, 50 grams. As they start to turn sideways, the feeder hits there, the fish is there. It's not going to turn back towards the restriction of the weight of the feeder. It's going to turn away, bang, and it's hooked. And what I do when I'm casting out, pack it with ground bait, pack that in like that, nice and high. That's not tangling. And the further I push it in, the better it is for not tangling. I cast that out because, especially in the winter months, you're casting out, you're waiting 3, 4, 5 hours for a bite. The last thing you want is to bring it back in and it's all tangled. This rig, trial and error over a 30-year period, this is my go-to every single time. And you know what? I know a lot of you carp guys don't like using the idea of using a feeder. Get this, 2 o'clock in the morning, it's raining, it's 4 degrees. You're sitting there trying to tie a PVA bag. I'm in, filled that up, cast it out, back in my bed with my coffee while you're still tying your PVA bag. My words are, get over yourself. Try these. They work, trust me. So anyway, I'm hoping to get out fishing end of October, all being well, and I'll get back to you with a video then. And don't forget, please subscribe, like, feel free to comment, ask any questions, and I've added some photographs of the various rigs with more details and about how I tie them, etc., so that you don't have to keep going back over the video. Hopefully it'll give you a go-to, bit like a book within a video. Cheers guys, speak to you soon.